Thank you all for coming and listening to my presentation today. This is my capstone, Custom Homes for the Disabled. Before I dive in, I want to share with you all the roadmap for my capstone and how I worked through my project. First, I started out in the discover phase. I looked at the problems that I was seeing in my family and community. Then I moved into the define phase, where I asked myself, who in my current community can I design for and help? Next, it was the develop phase. What areas specifically can I help to improve these individuals' lives? And lastly, the deliver phase. How did I address these needs and solve for them? Now that you all know what direction we're heading in, let's jump in. My name is Rachel Rim. I am from a tiny little town in northern Maine called Woodland. Since 8 years old, I have had a passion for home design. Unfortunately, I didn't have a photo of me drawing floor plans on my bedroom floor, but instead you can enjoy this photo of me baking. Before I start, I want to quickly tell you a little bit about my grandpa. I've had the opportunity to live with my grandparents the last 3 summers, and my grandpa specifically has shaped who I have become today. The photo on the far left was taken in June 2000, a few weeks before my grandpa went in to have a minor operation done on his lower spine to remove a small tumor. Unfortunately, the surgeon botched the surgery, leaving my grandpa paralyzed from the waist down. Almost 22 years after surgery, my grandpa has adapted to a new life reliant on his wheelchair and my Grammy. After spending the past 3 summers with my grandparents, I've been able to witness what it has been like for him to live in a home that wasn't originally built with him in mind. Thinking about all this, I began looking for a capstone this past fall. I started researching how I could help solve the problem of those with disabilities living in homes not intended for them. 26% of the current population in the United States is living with at least one disability. That's equivalent to around 61.9 million people, which is the entire population of these 8 states. 4.5 million of those individuals live with mobility issues that require them to use some kind of assisted walking device such as a wheelchair, walker, or cane. That number is equivalent to the entire population of Kentucky, or the population of Columbus multiplied times 5. After the discovery phase, I moved into my define phase and began asking myself a few questions that shaped my project. So, what is the problem that we can specifically solve for here? Well, let's start looking at our problem from a few different levels. First, I looked at mobility issues within the home from a 30,000-foot view. If maneuvering a wheelchair or walker causes some frustration and a hindrance in the home, then let's remove the wheelchair from the picture and find a way to get people to walk again on their own without any assistance. I realized, though, that I had neither the time nor technology to be able to take on a project of this scale, and soon realized I needed to look at this problem a little more closely. So I moved closer and looked at it from a 20,000-foot view instead. What might it look like to make a standard fit-for-all home solution that everyone could utilize? This also, while may appear to be a great fit at first glance, isn't the key. Every human is unique, and with that, every disability is unique as well. The needs of one user can greatly vary from the needs of the next. And with that in mind, I came to the conclusion that a fit-for-all housing solution wasn't the solution I was looking for. So again, I moved a little closer. From looking down on this particular problem from a 10,000-foot view, I realized that customizing each individual's house to fit them and their needs might just be the gap I was looking for. So I defined my mission as, how might we improve the life of people living with disability, specifically in wheelchairs, by improving their home space to be custom to them and their needs? So then, why is it important that everyone deserves a home that works for them and they feel safest in? According to the UK government, 1 in 3 people living with a disabled member live in some form of non-decent housing, and 1 in 5 disabled people believe that their homes are unsuitable to them. That number is equivalent to the entire population of Columbus alone. Custom homes can help prevent many of the temporary fixes that are time-consuming and dangerous. These temporary fixes are great as long as they remain temporary. It is when each of these following solutions becomes a user's permanent solution that they can become time-consuming and dangerous. One of these such fixes are arm extended grabbers. They can cause arm strain when the user attempts to lift objects that are larger than the device was intended to be used with. This can cause the user to drop the item and put themselves at risk for it falling on them or shattering on a surface nearby. If the user does happen to drop these items, there is a chance that they put themselves in even more danger if they have to reach down, possibly straining their back and neck in the process. Well, once again, ramps such as these are great temporarily. They aren't good long-term solutions. They are eyesores to the exterior of a home and can quickly become slippery in the winter under snow and ice buildup, as well as when they become wet in the rain. And lastly, bathroom band-aids. An average home bathroom isn't designed for those with mobility in mind. There is often not enough structural support in the wall to easily install support bars, and there may not be enough space to adequately maneuver and transfer onto the toilet. On top of this, it can be hard to balance on the toilet seat for some, so they will end up leaning on the tank of the toilet, breaking its structure and causing water damage. With all this to keep in mind, many times the heavy electric wheelchairs that individuals use to go about their daily lives bump into the porcelain structure of the toilet, cracking and compromising it over time and relating in water damage to the home and an immediate need for a new toilet. Ideally, creating spaces that are designed to assist to the specific needs of the user prevents many of the dangerous and time-consuming fixes. For my grandpa, some of his permanent fixes to his everyday life in a wheelchair were installing a sliding barn door that separated the bay he parks his van in and the heated workshop bay that sits next to it. Now, in the cold winter months, he can lower the ramp of his van inside of the garage, straight into the bay, and close the doors behind him so he can be in a temperature-controlled setting. He also has an enclosed ramp installed into the home so he could easily move from the garage to the rest of the house without being out in the rain or snow. My favorite of all my grandpa's fixes, however, is his zero-turn riding lawnmower. He realized a few years back that he could transfer onto these mowers and mow the lawn with ease because it is controlled with your hands instead of your feet. Now every week he's able to gain back a piece of his freedom by racing around the yard mowing, despite scaring my Grammy half to death in the process. I also had the privilege a few summers ago to help him build a set of raised garden beds so he could get out and garden without traveling across the yard and risk tipping his chair. Now he can easily access the gardens close to the house and no longer strain his back while reaching down to the ground to weed. So my grandpa already had a lot of these permanent fixes in place to help him complete his everyday tasks with ease. So who specifically should I design for? It's when I reached out to my local church asking this question that I met the McCollister family. This is a photo of the McCollisters that was taken a few months ago. It includes Brian and wife Jenny, Lauren, Jacob, Grant, Caroline, Bryn, and Shane. Today living in the home, we have Brian and Jenny, Lauren age 30, Grant 26, and Shane 9. So let me introduce you to them. First, there's Brian and Jenny. They are the parents, primary caregivers to their 2 handicapped adult children, and the teacher for their youngest, Shane, who is homeschooled. Then there's Lauren and Grant. At the age of 4 and 6, Lauren and Grant were diagnosed with an extremely rare genetic disorder called AOA1, also known as ataxia with ocular motor apraxia 1. They are the first 2 people in the United States to be diagnosed. Today, only 4 people in the US have been diagnosed with this genetic disease. Essentially, the nerves in their bodies are degenerating, leaving them with little to no ability to move independently. If you're familiar with muscular dystrophy, it deteriorates the body in a similar way. Fortunately, Grant still has a level of control of his body and can maneuver his electric wheelchair and play video games, build with Legos, and even transfer, with supervision, into bed. Lauren, however, uses a manual wheelchair and cannot support her back and neck well on her own and needs a lot more help from her parents every day. And lastly, there's Shane. He is homeschooled and described by his parents as a surprise child. He is the youngest of the McCollister kids and the little helper of the house. He also loves to build Legos, but has a larger passion for all things Minecraft. He currently shares a room with Grant. After my discover phase, I jumped into my development. After having multiple interviews with the family, I started a deep dive into their house to create solutions that solve their pain points. But first, let me show you what their home looks like today. This is the current master plan. They purchased this home in November of 2021 and since have done a few modifications to make it more wheelchair accessible. These are the current floor plans of the home. Since they moved in a few months back, they have widened all the doors enough to maneuver the wheelchairs through, so I didn't need to worry about that as I was designing. The home is a 1-story with a finished basement and consists of 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, as well as an additional family room, homeschool space, and home office, all located in the basement. So let me share with you some of the pain points in the house. These are the main pain points that I pulled from the interviews. However, due to the time constraints of this presentation, I will only be touching on a few. These are the 5 that I chose to work on. From the 5 listed on the previous slide, I was able to narrow the solutions down into 4. A ramp solution to make gaining access to the house for Lauren and Grant streamlined, combining the 2 main bathrooms so that the handicapped children no longer needed to travel to the master bath in the back of the home, creating a larger space for Lauren's bedroom, and adding an outdoor pool to give Grant more freedom and to add a space for Shane to play. I also wanted to build some raised garden beds for Brian to garden and create a larger outdoor living space that they could all enjoy as a family. So now I will show you photos of the outside of the home. Here you can see the ramp access that they currently have to the front door. Right now there's about 6 to 8 inches from that walking path up into the lip of the door. Here on the far left, you can see the master bathroom that currently Lauren and Grant are using in the back of the home. And in the middle and to the far right are photos of what the bathrooms currently look like in the more central part of the house. This is a photo of what Lauren's current bedroom looks like. And these are some photos of the current outdoor living space in the home. Next, let's move into the basement. As I stated earlier, due to the time constraints of this presentation, I was not able to touch on all the pain points. So I'll be working specifically with the 2 pain points highlighted. Updating the reading room and the homeschool space in the basement. This currently is what the homeschool space looks like for the McCollisters. And this is currently what their reading room looks like. So now that I showed you my define phase and what the current inside of and outside of the home looks like, let's move on to the deliver phase and my deliverables. This is one of the preliminary renders I did of the exterior of the home and what I believed it could look like in the future. Currently, this is the master plan of the home, and this is the proposed updated master plan. I added a walking path around the perimeter of the property so Lauren and Grant could get outside more, as well as adding raised garden beds, a larger deck space, and a pool. Currently, these are the floor plans of the home, and this is the updated floor plans. As a reminder earlier, this is what the exterior of the home looks like today, and this is what I believe it could look like in the future. This is the west elevation, the north elevation, the east elevation, the south elevation. So now let me show you the inside, starting with the first floor. As I was working on the first floor, these are a few of the goals that I had in mind. I wanted to create an ease of workflow for the handicapped kids as well as the caregivers, foster a place of growth as the family gets older together, and create a space that is safe for the kids and parents as everyone ages. Here's another photo of what that outside of the home looked like with the current ramp solution. And this is my CMF and mood board for the front of the home. For this part of the house, I wanted to add a lot of natural colors, a wooden ceiling on the porch, as well as lantern lights around the exterior. And this is one of my final renders. In the front of the home, I raised the original cement slab for ease of access, as well as widening the front deck to bring it up to ADA codes. I also built in a ramp next to the garage wall. I believe this is an ideal solution for the McCollisters because their handicap van is not able to pull into the garage at this time. So with this solution, they are able to lower the ramp, unload Lauren and Grant, go up the ramp on the side of the garage, and get underneath cover as soon as possible, especially when it's raining or snowing outside. Here's another reminder of what currently one of the bathrooms looks like in the house. And for this space, I wanted to add a lot of matte black fixtures, a round mirror, and a combination of tile and wood flooring. And this is my final render of the bathroom. Here in the bathroom, I combined the two original bathrooms to create an ADA compliant space. The arrow to your left is where the bathroom is currently that Lauren and Grant are using in the master. And the arrow to the right is the two bathrooms that I combined to create this ADA compliant space. It has a shower and bath combination for ease of access, specifically requested by the parents, as well as a motorized assisted lift system on the ceiling to help Jenny and Brian lift Lauren and Grant in and out of the bathtub and on and off the toilet as they age, as well as a backless toilet with support bars. I believe this is specifically a great solution at this point in time for Lauren specifically, who has a lot of issues supporting her back and neck. I also added a combination of wood and tile flooring in the bathroom. As I was researching, I realized that heavy wheelchairs often will crack large tiles, and Grant specifically has a very large electric wheelchair that has cracked tiles in the McCollister home in the past. And here, the photo on the left is what Lauren's bedroom looks like currently, and the photo on the right is where I propose her bedroom will move in the future into the current guest bedroom location. For Lauren's room, I wanted to use some ceiling string lights, natural pink walls, and lots of floral accents. And here's one of the final renders. In Lauren's room, I moved her from her original location, which is the arrow to the right, to her new permanent location in the guest room, which is the arrow to the left. This is an expanded space for her, so it's easier for her parents to maneuver her in this space. I also propose that they get a manual lift system that will allow them to get Lauren in and out of bed with more ease of access as they are all growing older. And now to move outside. Currently, this is what the home looks like in the back. For this space, I wanted to add pergola coverings, string lights, and a new grilling space for the family, as well as the raised garden beds and pool. And here's one of the final renders. In this space, I wanted to add the raised garden beds for Brian, a pool for added freedom specifically for Grant, an additional outdoor patio and living space for the entire family to enjoy together. Now, let's move to the basement. These were two of my goals while I was designing the basement. I wanted to develop an area for the parents and caregivers as an escape from stress, as well as foster an ideal learning environment for homeschooling. As a reminder, this is currently what the reading room looks like in the home. In this space, I wanted to add some lanterns, keep the blue couch that you saw on the previous slide. Jenny specifically mentioned that this was a couch she purchased for her and Shane to read together on. And I also wanted to add lots of plants to this space. And this is one of my final renders. Here, I updated the reading and study space, added more lighting, and redid the flooring and walls to open up and lighten the space. And this is the homeschool room. In this room, I wanted to add more shelving, a large desk space, and extra wicker storage baskets. And this is one of my final renders. Here, I opened up the window wall to add more ease of access and some flow, as well as increase the storage. For any of you who have ever been homeschooled, you know that there's lots of books and materials that come with that, so I wanted to give the McCollisters lots of space to store those items. I also added a lot of additional lighting and a variety of plants to increase the biophilia effect. So did I complete my mission? How might we improve the life of people living with disability, specifically in wheelchairs, by improving their home space to be custom to them and their needs? I believe I did by giving Lauren a larger bedroom, getting a larger ADA compliant bathroom specifically for Grant and Lauren, as well as adding a built-in ramp solution for the home. I also added a pool and updated the reading and learning space in the basement for the caregivers, who are the parents, as well as Shane. Thank you.